Okay, welcome back then, early August 1855, and as you would have determined from the previous video, no significant engagements as yet. A very slow starting war in a strange sort of way, really. I mean, the war started in what, sort of early May, late May, and we're in, high summer now without a significant engagement, but the Austrians are now certainly looking to make headway. They're moving a force, a fairly large force, although without any kind of meaningful leadership that we can see. Maybe just be the general there is concealed from us, but it looks like that force is now heading down towards Salonika, and we've spotted in Sarajevo also an Austrian army. We don't entirely know what it's comprised of, but it does have a leadership. It has political leadership, or a proper kind of military leadership, which say a field marshal. But our forces are now in place. At least two of our European sort of field commands are. We have Omar Pasha, the legend of the Crimean War, in place at the helm of an army of just over 95,000 men, 20,000 horses, just under 500 guns, and he's ready to move. And in the south, we've got Abd Karim Nadir, and he's in command of an army of a similar size, just over 90,000, 13,000 horse, and about 420 guns. We're ready to move. I'm going to make sure that nothing is being left behind. No. So we can see an Austrian army positioned to the north, and we can see an Austrian army appear to have separated in the south. I think in the first place, we're going to Abd Karim Nadir is activated. We're going to set Abd Karim Nadir to attack. We're going to set him to all-out attack, and we're going to move him to secure Salonika. It's a 10-day march. Weather is clement. We're early August, so that's really good news. Omar Pasha, we are going to set to move into Niš, which is 5 days, and from here, 11 days, 18 days, I think we move him to Zvornik, and we hold position there, set to an offensive posture, set to all-out attack. Now the idea is, we're hoping this force is going to make a move for Salonika, and Abd Karim Nadir will engage them, and then we can roll them back into Omar Pasha's force. Of course, Omar Pasha will come under pressure from whatever force this is. We suspect they'll probably send more forces through the Zvornik Gap over the next fortnight, so Omar Pasha will be expecting some kind of action. All of our commands have been assigned. We've got the Imperial Guard under Abdi Pasha, and the 1st Infantry Corps under Ahmed, and the 2nd under Mehmed Rashid Pasha, plus 2 independent cavalry divisions, an artillery regiment, and various service asset units, pioneers, engineers, military police, field hospitals, and then 3 supply trains. His forces, for the most part, reorganized. I think we're in a good position to move, so we're going to do that. We're going to begin the first actions of this war. A strike to the south. I'm going to say it's a strike. We currently hold Salonika, but anticipate the Austrians will be making an attack on Salonika, and a move to the north to block off any retreat for that force. That is an army-sized force, I think, or at least it's comprised of a number of army corps. I would guess that Austrian force is 50,000 or more. The transport fleet that is heading south towards Palestine, we're going to be picking up 2 infantry divisions, and those infantry divisions will be joining the main reserve army that's being compiled in Constantinople. We have 1 army corps there, plus we have got 3 generals. We're obviously going to be jettisoning Riza Pasha, and we also have a field hospital unit that's being built in Smyrna, and an infantry corps which is now completed training and fabrication, and that infantry corps is going to be using riverine points. I didn't realize we had that many riverine points, actually, and that force is going to move into Constantinople. It's going to be there in 14 days. So we're getting ourselves in a position now where we're going to have a 3rd army in play probably by September, October time, I would say. And I think that's going to be really, really critical. We do want another cavalry division, I think, at some point. Does it have a cavalry division just yet? Let's have a look. What am I doing? Yeah, it does have a cavalry. As long as it has 1 cavalry division. That cavalry division needs to reorganize and gather some sort of some replacements in any case. We have the raiding fleet then from Smyrna now in the trade box, looking to hunt Austrian commerce in the Mediterranean. Our own commerce so far, we've not seen any kind of significant problems. We've got 2 merchant fleets in the Mediterranean, and yeah, no issues at all, no contact with the Austrian Navy so far. The main Imperial fleet is still sitting in Constantinople. That's going to set sit tight for another fortnight just to undergo some various reorganisation, crew leave, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much it. I think all of our military moves are made. Our colonial force under the command of Zaif Pasha has fully reorganised. Its supply issue seems to be largely overcome. So he's going to be conducting a sortie north into Taiz to try and see if we can engage some of the Yemeni forces. They continue to besiege Sana'a, but they engaged our force, and it was a victory for them. They inflicted, 4,000 casualties, and God, they only lost 70 men, 75 men, So they're absolutely kind of decimating the depot guard. It looks like Sana'a's going to fall pretty much next turn. If we can, we'll press north and see if we can relieve Sana'a, or if not, retake it back and then head back south. The worry is, of course, supplies, but we'll keep an eye on that situation. In terms of our military moves, that is basically it. We don't have anything else really up our sleeves. Our two main forces in the European theatre are set, and they're going to be moving. So to that end, I'm going to pass turn. I'll leave you on pause, and I shall see you on the other side in late August. And I think probably by then, I would imagine we would have had our first significant contact with the Austrians. Okay, so welcome back. Late August. Turn has been passed, and let's have a look at some of the developments. I've already kind of conducted the planned moves for the next turn so that you can see what the kind of plan is. So no major significant clashes. I thought there might be. So it looks like that Omar Pasha brushed aside a very small kind of reconnaissance force, destroying the entire force, only 1,300 men. Took the lot of them prisoners by the looks of it. That was an Austrian reconnaissance brigade moving through Niš. Once in Niš, he engaged another Austrian army. This looks like it's kind of an ad hoc force that was trying to pass through the region, maybe ambushed, caught very flat-footed. This is 1,200 men, 12,000 men, I should say. They took 8,000 casualties, and it looks to be a kind of reserve formation of some kind of sort of militia reserve formation, so not sort of frontline or first-rate troops. Maybe they're moving into position to try and occupy the territory. But the force, given a bit of a drubbing, two regiments destroyed, 8,000 men, obviously some prisoners also, only 600 losses on our part. But what we can see now is we're starting to get a clearer picture of the Austrian strategy. So there's an Austrian force now in Macedonia that is fairly substantial. It's a mixed force. There's reserve brigades, all kinds of mixed brigades by the looks of it. Reserve army corps, regular army corps. It's a very kind of mixed, funny kind of force. What we're going to do is to look to kind of envelop and try and trap that force. Close the Salonika gap. First of all, it's going to take 3 days for Omar Pasha to get there, and then we're going to march him south into Kosovo. And we're going to move Abdul Karim Nadir north. It's going to take him 6 days. If he engages straight away, he'll kind of be on his own against this force. This Austrian force is leaderless. If it takes him a couple of days to engage, we should have some support from Omar Pasha's force that can march to the sound of the guns. But the idea is to try and envelop and destroy this Austrian force that looks to be rather substantial. Doesn't seem to have any commander assigned to it, but there's, very... I mean, this could be like more than 100,000 men. Quite a large force. So anyway, we're in a position to engage it, so we're going to do just that. Abdul Karim Nadir's force is... he's 6 days march away. He doesn't require any more time or anything to kind of get his force into shape. So we could either sit there and wait for them to attack us, or we could move around, try and engage the force and gradually destroy it. Our third army, which is still being kind of gradually kind of brought together in Constantinople, has most of its leadership now. With the reserve army corps is there. We've got a cavalry division, various service asset units, and of course we have an army corps, reserve army corps, which has been built in Smyrna, which is moving into position. Will be there in 2 days. We've got 2 infantry divisions also. We're waiting really now for the kind of transport fleet to get itself organised, so we can embark those men and move those guys to Constantinople, and that would allow us to really then release that army for operations, a third army, which is good news. The fleet is in a position now to conduct a sortie. I think to that end we're going to do just that. We'll set a sustained attack, and we're going to move again the kind of base of the Adriatic, try and bottle any kind of Austrian forces up that are looking to kind of move. In fact, you know what, let's go further. Let's conduct standing patrol, 14 days, all the way up to the Polar Peninsula, Gulf of Venice, and see if we can't catch something by surprise that maybe is moving. They might be looking to make some sort of landing in Albania or something like this, so we'll preempt that. And also just to sort of stop any Austrian fleets trying to conduct, or squadrons trying to conduct, any kind of operations out of the Adriatic. Once there, we'll obviously pull them back and maybe just conduct a standing patrol in the Ionian Sea or the Aegean or something like this. That's pretty much it. In terms of any kind of combat moves that we're going to make, we're bringing that brigade, the first brigade actually that engaged the Austrians, took a bit of a hiding. It was a very small kind of skirmish action, but this is only a very small force. We're going to bring that force back into Sofia so that it can receive replacements and get itself back into fighting order. We do have an additional cavalry brigade. We're going to press that force into Zvornik to hold that position. It's set to retreat if engaged, but that might give us a little bit of intelligence force and screen Omar Pasha as he turns around and heads south to look to engage the Austrian force that's moved into the Balkans. The hope is to kind of envelop and destroy this force. You know, it won't necessarily happen like that, but we'll see what happens. But we do want to discourage the Austrians from conducting any kind of serious deep operations into the Balkans. If this comes off, this could net us a huge bag of prisoners. I mean, I think whatever the weather, we're going to be looking at a fairly significant action very soon indeed. That's it. It looks like there's another kind of culminating crisis between Britain and Prussia. We do have to keep an eye on that. Prussia is in an alliance with Austria, and if that ends up in a war, it is over Zanzibar again, that would compel us to declare war on Prussia, and Prussia would have transit rights through Austria, which would bring another great power into play. So we have to really sort of play this one carefully and give some careful thought to what might happen here. It looks like the Austrians are now besieging Torino and Alessandria. And they're now really sort of beginning to kind of make a move against the Piedmont, Sardinia. Not much we can do about that. It's good while it happens. It ties up Austrian forces, and that's good news for us. It may be the case that this is all the Austrians have in play for the Balkan campaign for now. If that is the case, we're hoping to kind of rudely surprise them in the next fortnight. In terms of our economy, exports ever so slightly down really now to about 131. Given that about this time last year we were exporting about 10 more units of merchandise for about 200 per turn. Exports have slackened off. The strange thing is, exports have almost, in some areas, halved in terms of the revenue, but we've only, we're only selling about 10 less merchandises. What that suggests is exports are heavily centered towards agricultural goods at the moment, less towards manufactured goods. That's okay though. We are still, exporting some mechanical parts, which we have a small background production of, manufactured goods, and the rest is mostly kind of agriculture, dyes, tobacco, that sort of thing. That's it economically. All eyes really now on the two great generals in the west, Omar and Admiral Karim Nadir, to see if we can pull off what's going to be, I think, the first significant battle of the war. So I'll leave you on pause here, past turn, and we'll see you next in early September 1855. Okay, welcome back. Early September 1855, and we've seen our first sizable action. Blood has been drawn, and it's funny business so far. We can see structured commands now in Bosnia and also pushing through the Zvornik Gap. But for their initial their spearhead, if you like, was really chaotic and unorganized. Anyway, first battle we'll run through the battles was a defeat. That was basically the Yemenis finishing off Sana. They've taken Sana now. We're moving north, looking to assault Sana and take it back for ourselves. Organization's reasonably good. The forces supply is quite good now. So it's Marine division, a cavalry division, plus a support militia brigade. Well, that militia brigade has now been trained up and is basically a regular force. It's a brigade of regular infantry, irrespective of what it would be called. Also captured guns. This should be a sufficient force to take back Sana. We're set to an assault posture, and we're going to do just that. Assault the town. Now, First battle then was, let's have a look. So this battle, I think, was actually took place in Salonika before Abdul Karim Nadir could move. So I think they split a force off, sent it to Salonika, and that force was defeated. And that force was comprised of a shade under 30,000. They took not huge casualties, 1,000 casualties plus 1,200 prisoners, lost 2 elements. Yeah, I mean, it's a victory, not a huge kind of victory of any kind, really. I mean, this force is like a core size, really. We haven't captured anything as far as I'm aware. Let's just really quickly check his force. Yeah, we haven't captured any kind of units or anything like that. But, yeah, so we kind of brushed that force aside, pushed it north by the looks of it. Second engagement then was at Zvornik. This, again, was a really mixed kind of Austrian force, I guess, looking to push through the Zvornik gap. 6,000 men, all of them killed, wounded or captured. That force is completely destroyed. Again, not a really big engagement, just brushing small forces aside. Second engagement at Zvornik then against a more substantial Austrian force, shade under 20,000. We inflict 1,000 casualties, take 300 casualties, and we take 1,000 prisoners. Again, not a big sort of climactic battle. We're kind of, you know, engaging kind of ad hoc Austrian formations, brushing them aside, inflicting, you know, serious enough kind of defeats on them, but yeah, not the kind of huge kind of battle we're looking at. Anyway, another battle in Macedonia, this one more substantial then. Here we have 100,000 Austrian forces without a significant commander, with a localized commander, and this is a mixed force, a lot of supply detachments, expeditionary battalions, reserve militia forces, marines, cavalry, and then some line infantry. But it's a funny kind of force. It's a victory for us, not the kind of resounding victory that perhaps we'd like, but again, I mean, 8,000 casualties, we take, 200 prisoners, we lose 10,000 casualties ourselves. A pretty protracted battle, this. Again, a lot of regular Austrian forces here, but this battle rages on for 6 rounds. And even though I'd say it's a victory for us, relatively inconclusive, especially since we have a leadership, we have a proper core system in place, that should have been much more resounding and serious. But yeah, it may have been that it was just kind of a slightly off-kilter battle, really. It wasn't a proper engagement. The Austrians were moving north. It looks like one of those army corps is up at Niš. The remainder of that force fell back to Kosovo. Now we've got Omar Pasha in Kosovo. We've set him to offensive posture, all-out attack. He'll engage whatever is in Kosovo and then move north towards Niš, looking to close the gap entirely. There is an Austrian force now under the command of Albrecht von Ostrich, Albert of Austria. We'll just call him Albert. And he's in command of an army corps. It's hard to determine what he's actually in command of. There's, again, lots of mixed forces there that the Austrians are trying to push through the gap. There is a more substantial force under von Mitrovic, and that is a proper kind of army. It's got reserve cavalry divisions, 3 army corps. That's a more substantial force, and that is sitting up tight at Sarajevo. It looks like they're holding the big guns back and sending a lot of kind of smaller, disorganized forces into the Balkans, maybe to take ground, besiege some territory, that kind of thing. And it's not going well for them, but chance they'll be moving Mitrovic into theatre soon. If we engage Albrecht at Zvornik, it could result, or will likely result, in Mitrovic being brought in a call to the guns effect. So we only really want to do that when we're in a position to really kind of defeat that force, all of these combined forces. We don't want to do it at the end of a long march or anything like that. Now, Omar Pasha's force has engaged in some action and some marching. It's a little bit disorganized. 4 days up to Niš, then it gets to sit tight at Niš for the remainder of the time, which is 10 days, so that's a good rest. Abdelkrim Nadir's force isn't in terrible shape. It took some casualties, of course, but nothing too serious. That force is not too badly organized. We're going to move north or northwest towards Kosovo. He's not activated. He's set to a defensive posture. He's going to sit tight once he's there. Now that's really I beg your pardon. There's a second engagement between Omar Pasha then in Macedonia, with the remainder of that Austrian force, 70,000 left. We take 800 casualties, inflict a shade under 3,000 casualties. That's a far shorter kind of engagement, but yeah, that was led by Omar Pasha. But again, Not one single big engagement resulting in catastrophic losses either side. Lots of kind of running battles, a bit of a mixed, chaotic, confused picture that we're getting. But in the first engagements for sizable Austrian forces, despite all those kind of, sort of advantages they have as a much more Western, modernized industrial state than Russia, so far we haven't noticed that on the battlefield. We're coming off really well. This feels a lot like we're fighting the Russians. Our army is very sleek, very professional. It's functioning really, really well. Of course, all of our soldiers, non-commissioned officers, and staff officers are all very seasoned. This is not new stuff to them. To the Austrians, this is probably very new. So despite all these kind of advantages they have, it looks like their opening play feels somewhat chaotic. We've got a cavalry brigade up there. We're going to set that to evade combat. In Salonika, I think we might even get it to fall back to niche. And that is pretty much it. We've got a cavalry brigade of the Austrians has moved into Epirus, is besieging the Bashi bazooks there. That's okay, we'll keep them in place for the time being. The fleet sortied. That's extremely irritating. It was set to evade combat, God knows why. Anyway, the fleet sortied into the northern Adriatic. Now it's up there. We're going to head all the way back down, hoping to engage any Austrian, any Austrian ships that may be operating either in the Ionian, Southern Central Adriatic, or Aegean Sea. And that will be our naval combat patrol for that turn. Slightly irritated that was set to evade combat. I felt rather sure that it wasn't, but anyway, not for the first time that's happened. It happened during the Crimean War at one point as well. We'll keep a careful eye on our naval posture before conducting turns, I think, from now on. Let's check the transport fleet in Palestine. Yeah, I'd say that's in reasonable shape now. Okay. And let's get these boys back into Constantinople. Forthwith, 19 days. I'll take it. That force is set to evade combat, which is exactly what we want. And we're a little way off. Yeah, we're a little way off being able to kind of build an additional army corps. Unless we make it a militia corps again. It's a possibility we could do that. Or we could wait for the officers. If we wait for the officers, it's 2 per turn. That's... Yeah, I don't think we will. I think given that this third army is comprised of actually 2 regular infantry corps, one of which, where is it? One of which is here. We'll make the third one a conscript corps. Now, that conscript corps will gradually be trained into being a regular force anyway, so I can live with that. Yeah, that's fine. Leaves us plenty of state revenue. Leaves us plenty of everything that we need. And, yeah, plus we'll have 2 infantry divisions as well. The infantry divisions, we could even maybe operate as independent units, just to kind of hold ground, cover ground, and this sort of thing. But yeah, that's it. In terms of military matters, that's it. That's everything that happened late August. I do feel like we're kind of we're on the cusp of a really significant battle with the Austrians, but the first engagements look good. Nothing too much to worry about. Yeah, and I'm starting to feel optimistic about the kind of the war. Yeah, so the garrison at Salonika was mustered. That's the field hospital unit is complete. We'll get those guys into. Oh, hold on. We've got the field hospital service asset unit as well in place for the Third Army. Yeah, feeling kind of tentatively optimistic so far. Let's have a look at the economy. So far, exports have dipped off a little bit, down to about 120 now, and also that is the case for domestic consumption. Warfare is being fought now on our territory. That is going to have a bit of an effect. And on the economy, we want to end that fairly soon and see if we can push the Austrians back into Bosnia. And looking at so far at the situation, I see no reason why we wouldn't be able to do that. But yeah, nothing too much to worry about economically, though. No major concerns or dramas or issues. Our service, our assets balance is good, 3%. Still we'll keep an eye on inflation. Nothing too much to worry about. 3% is kind of 2 to 4%. I'd say is kind of okay. 5% we need to start 5-6% we need to start having some concerns and worries. But yeah, looking around the map, I think that's it for now. That's going to be the limits of what we're going to do now. Two developments. One, the Austrians have declared war on Montenegro. That changes things, of course. That means the Slavonic Gap is no longer the Slavonic Gap. There's the Slavonic Montenegro Gap. So I think what we're going to do is, see, our relations with Montenegro are not particularly good. Let's see what relations they have with anyone. No one. We're going to propose a state visit to Montenegro, even though they're going to shortly be occupied. We'll send a dignitary there, see if we can start developing good relations with them, and see if we can get transit rights. In the last analysis, we have a common foe. I suspect the Austrian intention here is to obviously open up a bit, broaden the front, really, broaden their options in terms of moving against us. The other, development is an additional crisis. I've not even clicked through this yet, so we'll experience it together. But same thing over Zanzibar. Britain, the initiator. Crisis between Britain and Prussia. So this prestige stash sits at 755 to begin with. Just cause is at -1, so it's basically sort of +1 for Prussia to all extensive purposes. And correct me if I'm wrong there, may well be. Crisis intensity is halfway to war, pretty much 44, not there yet. And dominance sits at -1, which again essentially means +1 to Prussia. So in its current state, Prussia has the upper hand. Let's look at how it develops. So the opening plays were Britain moves to delay, Prussia issues an ultimatum, Britain then issues a warning, Prussia then moves for sort of great discourse. That ups the prestige stash significantly. Doesn't change either just cause or dominance, but it does de-escalate the situation a little bit, especially from the kind of ultimatum. It makes war slightly less likely. It suggests that both sides are, even though that's a warning, both sides are more interested in kind of dialogue. Prestige stash increases again. Just cause is sitting at -1 for Britain. Slight escalation towards war. Dominance -2. So Britain is losing dominance in this situation, really. So Britain has played debate. Prussia has played diplomatic insult. And Britain is playing cool press conference. Prussia is playing hostile press campaign. Prestige stash 1,473. There has been a change then. Just cause indicator is now 1 for the initiator for Britain. So Britain has a bit more control over the crisis. The intensity has gone up a little bit, but it's still quite far away from war. And the dominance is decreased for Britain. So +2 dominance for Austria, or Austria-Prussia, basically. So Britain plays silver tongue, Prussia plays pressure supports, slight decrease in prestige stash, just cause remains the same, crisis intensity increases slightly. It still looks like dominance for Prussia, and then last hand, prestige stash declined, just cause remained +1 for Britain. Crisis intensity increased, fairly spiked there towards the end. So Britain played contest on legal points, Prussia played forged claim, and then it ends with dominance -2 to Britain, which is basically translates to +2 for Prussia, and that is how the remaining prestige stash is divvied out. So the first diplomatic crisis was a victory for Britain. The second kind of round of diplomacy has been a victory for Prussia. They've clawed back some of that prestige. Britain still gets some prestige, however. It's not a complete loss of face for Britain. But it looks like Prussia came out on top of that diplomatic crisis. That's pretty much it. In terms of the military moves, there's nothing significant we're going to do. The only other thing to really report that is pertinent to our kind of corner of the world is that the Caucasus rebellion has really spread. Russia has a real problem on its hands here. Initially they just had kind of Grozny and Terek and a few territories. It's now sprawled to kind of include a huge swathe, really, of the southern and even central kind of Caucasus. Huge numbers of territories are now under rebel control. and Russia has a real problem here. We need to start considering maybe moving a mobile force, maybe building a cavalry division and sending it to the eastern Anatolia, because of course these rebel brigands and whatever they are, they don't necessarily recognize international borders, and there's a chance they might cross borders into kind of Kars. And by the looks of it, these units are not just irregular militia forces. These kind of rebel forces look to be quite organized and serious. So our Bashi bazooks will have a handful trying to contain them in eastern Anatolia. So we'll give some thought to that. It'll be a little bit of time before we have the manpower required now to do that. But anyway, so far so good. That's the war then, moving from, I guess, playing through kind of August to September. A little bit more curt than the last video, just because, of course, the early plays just really involve moving forces into position. We are now in a position where we've got 2 mobile field armies operating in sort of western Bulgaria, southern Serbia, and we're well placed now to be kind of engaging Austrian forces. And we'll be doing that, and we have been doing that, of course, but it looks like bigger Austrian forces are kind of coming into play now. But yeah, initial Austrian offensive towards Salonika looks like it's been defeated. We've pushed them back, and it looks increasingly like we've secured northern Greece, and we're in the process of securing southern Serbia. But I suspect big battles are on their way. It depends whether the Austrians sit tight. We do need to keep an eye now on what they do in Montenegro, whether they send a large force there or not. And we'll see if we can kind of cultivate a bit of a relationship with Montenegro, see if we can get some transit rights or something like this. They don't look at us too fondly, of course. They're our principality that we've kind of really nominally lost any kind of serious control over. And as far as they're concerned, they have territorial claims on our empire. So they're probably going to be hard work and foolish on this matter, I suspect. But I'll leave it there. Next video then we'll pick up in late September or in early September. So from here, I will pass turn. And again, from late September, we'll probably look to pass through a month or 2 of action to see how the war develops. We're in early September, so the summer's kind of drawing to a close now. The campaign season was funny in that it mostly involved us moving forces into place. You can see a little bit of pillaging, loot damage in Macedonia, with these Austrian forces perhaps struggling to get supplies. Drawing on the kind of local land, the local population, and there's probably going to be more of that in the western or our western Balkan provinces as the war continues. So we'll pick up in late September and look to begin to campaign into the autumn next time round. So thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.